Among the Peruvian Andes, over 500 years ago, arose what is perhaps the most astonishing and mystifying city our planet has ever seen. It is called Machu Picchu. This structural phenomenon defies explanation. Who were the people that built this city? Why did they build it in this unlikely place? These were people who had no system of writing, nothing approaching even primitive metallurgy that might allow for basic iron tools. Most unbelievably, they did not have use of the wheel. Somehow, despite everything, they created such a masterpiece. How? More importantly, why? And why was this feat of engineering abandoned after only 100 years? For over a century, scientists and historians across the world have been trying to answer these questions, conducting research and putting forward various hypotheses. It's only after experiencing this place that you truly realize that, despite all the theories, to this day, nobody knows what happened here. The purpose of this video is not to offer general information about Machu Picchu. Anyone interested in historical information can easily find a great deal of it online without my help. Rather, this is for those who dream of visiting one of the new 7 wonders of the world. As someone who had the opportunity to visit Machu Picchu, I would like to share my experience and tell you about what you should know before you embark on this journey for yourself. So here are 15 things you need to know before going to Machu Picchu. The most comfortable weather in Peru is during the winter months, from June to August, as Peru is in the southern hemisphere. These are the peak months for tourism, so be wary of overcrowding and high prices. In order to get a better deal, less traffic, and pleasant weather, I suggest visiting in May. There are many ways to get to Machu Picchu, but the simplest and safest would be to fly to Lima, the capital of Peru. From there, connect to Cusco, the closest town with an airport to Machu Picchu, via a local airline. After arriving in Lima, we opted for an hour-long flight on a local plane bound for Cusco. Here we are in Cusco, the capital of the ancient Inca Empire, in whose architecture the Spanish conquistadors left a noticeable mark. This rather large city, with a population of around 500,000, is located in the Andes at an altitude of 3,400 meters above sea level. The Incas settled here in the 13th century and were conquered by the Spanish in the 16th. In 1983, UNESCO declared Cusco a World Heritage Site. Over 2 million tourists come here every year. Most use Cusco as a transit point on the way to Machu Picchu, which is what we did. It is recommended that you spend at least 3 days in Cusco before moving on in order to adapt to the highlands' thin air. Do not disregard this advice, as one can experience altitude sickness at just 2,000 meters above sea level. We followed the advice and remained in Cusco for a full 3 days. It ended up being the right call for us, as my wife proved to be extremely sensitive to altitude sickness and needed all 3 days to adjust. To my surprise, I wasn't nearly as affected as I had expected to be. Everyone handles extreme altitude differently, and if you feel you may be sensitive, there are several medications that might help. Make sure to speak to your physician if you think this might be a good solution for you. Due to the possible side effects of medications, we chose to rely on local remedies, such as cocoa tea, and found them to be effective. Your time in Cusco is not wasted. Even if you adjust to the altitude more quickly than expected, it's a beautiful and historically rich city with a lot to offer. You could enjoy the local museums, architecture, and cathedrals, and walk through the streets of the old city. There is a wide variety of restaurants to visit as well. Since you are adapting to the higher altitude, try not to overexert yourself, overeat, or drink alcohol. Even coffee is not recommended. Since Cusco is in the mountains, the air temperature in the evenings is quite low. Also, despite winter being the dry season in Peru, it still rains often. Make sure to pack warm and waterproof clothing. There are many hotels all over Cusco, but I would recommend booking a hotel within the old town, as that is where the attractions are. It's more convenient and lends your experience more cultural authenticity. I almost forgot about money. In Peru, from taxis to restaurants, they prefer to be paid in cash. US dollars or local currency, preferably Peruvian soles, are both acceptable. Currency exchange is more profitable in Old Cusco rather than at the airport. It's time to go to Aguas Calientes, where we get to spend almost 3 days and we'll finally visit Machu Picchu. Our train leaves early in the morning from the station of the town of Peru, which is 30 minutes by taxi from Cusco. Travel time to Aguas Calientes is a little less than 4 hours. So we are now in Aguas Calientes. This small town is located 10 kilometers from Machu Picchu. It is 2,040 meters above sea level, which is actually nearly 1,000 meters lower than Cusco. Aguas Calientes is Spanish for hot springs, and there are indeed several hot springs to be found here. This town was founded at the beginning of the 20th century when railway construction began. Despite the fact that it's only a bit over 100 kilometers away from Cusco, you feel completely detached from the whole world here. It is home to about 5,000 people, whose earnings rely entirely on tourism. The town is mostly composed of hotels, restaurants, and souvenir shops. In this city, the streets are designed only for pedestrians. So there are no vehicles except for the few buses used to get to Machu Picchu. Communication with the mainland is only by rail, or in an emergency situation, by helicopter. Everything the town needs, from personal products to building materials, is brought here by train and then transported around the city, literally by hand or by wheelbarrows of every size and shape. People say that because of the isolation from the mainland, everything is highly priced. I do not agree. We found the prices to be similar to Cusco. Is there anything interesting to do in Aguas Calientes? Not particularly, except for the hot springs it was named for. These are extremely relaxing and great for sore muscles, especially if you chose to hike into Machu Picchu instead of taking the bus. We honestly didn't expect much from this town, as it is just a transition point between Cusco and Machu Picchu. Some people come here in the morning, visit Machu Picchu, then return to Cusco in the evening. However, having traveled such a long and difficult way, I found the idea of spending only a few short hours at Machu Picchu to be foolish and wasteful. If you are going to do something, do it right. We spent nearly 3 days here and got to enjoy Machu Picchu 3 times. As I already mentioned, Aguas Calientes is the last transition point to Machu Picchu. You are a 25-minute bus ride away from Machu Picchu. Bus tickets can be purchased not far from the bus stop. Here we are at the top. course, I expected to see one of the most beautiful places on the planet. It's what I came here for. Friends, in all honesty, I have never in my life experienced such exhilaration and astonishment at the same time. You feel as if you have entered some new fantastical state of being wholly unlike anything you've ever experienced before. The spiritual energy of this place simply bowls you over. The harmony between the architecture of men and nature is unlike anything I knew could exist. There is beauty and inherent peacefulness here that cannot be conveyed on screen. So I can only advise you to make the journey and see it with your own eyes. There are many rules and restrictions that the Ministry of Culture of Peru sets for tourists visiting Machu Picchu. I will cover some of them for you briefly. Let's first see what is included in the archaeological complex of Machu Picchu. First of all is the central and main part, known as the Citadel. If you look at Machu Picchu from the east, there is a mountain called Huayna Picchu, located to the right of the Citadel, and to the left is a mountain called Machu Picchu. In order to visit the Citadel, or climb either Mount Huayna Picchu or Machu Picchu, you need to buy tickets. I recommend buying them a few months before your trip, since they are limited and sell out very quickly. The best place to buy them is on the Ministry of Culture of Peru's website. Tickets are not sold at the Machu Picchu complex entrance. All tickets for visiting Machu Picchu are nominal, meaning that they include your name and your passport details. There are different ticket options. 1. Visit of the Citadel only. 2. Visit of the Citadel and the mountain of Huayna Picchu. Ascent and descent takes approximately 2 hours. 3. Visit of the Citadel and the mountain of Machu Picchu. Ascent and descent takes approximately 4 hours. Tickets are sold for the first half of the day from 6 to 12, and the second half of the day from 12 to 5:30. The administration expects you to spend about 3 to 4 hours visiting the Citadel, and you must leave the complex premises within the time specified on your tickets, or else you will be asked to leave. However, throughout my time there, I did not see this rule being enforced at a single time. So theoretically, you can spend all day at the complex if you really wanted to, provided that you treat the environment and those around you with respect, and your physiological needs don't interrupt you. That's right, now we talk about the toilet situation. You may laugh, but the topic of toilets at Machu Picchu is widely and dramatically discussed on the internet. People are very unhappy with the rules regarding toilets, and some even accuse the Ministry of Culture of Peru of discriminating against human rights. There is only one toilet on Machu Picchu. You have to pay to use it. The cost is just under $1. Fortunately, there does not seem to be a long line to use it. The problem is that it is located outside the territory of the Citadel. In other words, there are no toilets once you enter the territory of the Citadel, and if you leave it, even just to use the toilet, you will not be let back into the Citadel afterwards. The only exception is those people who have a double ticket, allowing for a visit of the Citadel and one of the mountains, Machu Picchu or Huayna Picchu. How how much time do you need to visit the Machu Picchu complex? In general, you can cover it within 3 to 4 hours. But did you travel thousands and thousands of miles to get here? Spent days acclimating for just 3 hours of sightseeing? Let's be real. Optimally, you want at least 2 days. The first day, you can hire a tour guide for about $60 for 3 to 3.5 hours to get the official experience. And on the second day, return to look around and take it in at your own pace. This is only if you do not intend to climb the mountains of Machu Picchu and Huayna Picchu. According to the rules, Machu Picchu must be visited with a guide, and guides must have permission from the Ministry of Culture to work. However, most tourists visit the Citadel on their own. You can hire your guide right in front of the entrance to the Machu Picchu complex. There are quite a few of them, so you should have no trouble finding one if you choose to do so. About other restrictions, plastic bottles of water and professional cameras are not permitted, but if you keep them in your backpack when you're going through the entrance, then you will be okay. Tripods are, however, not allowed under any circumstances. Do not even try to bring them in. Many visitors say they had a huge problem with biting midges and recommend bug spray. It probably depends on the season, but I didn't have any problems with insects in May. I do, however, recommend you use sunscreen, even if it's cloudy. At this high altitude, you can still get burned in cloudy weather. You will be asked to show your passport when boarding a train, a bus, and at the entrance of the Machu Picchu complex. Also, at the entrance of Machu Picchu, as a souvenir, you can stamp your passport with the seal of Machu Picchu. If you do not adapt well to the high altitude, after arriving in Cusco, you can immediately take a train and go to Ollantaytambo for a couple days. This town is located between Cusco and Agua Calientes. Its altitude is about 700 meters lower than in Cusco, which makes it easier to acclimate. On the other hand, spending a few days in Cusco and seeing local historical sites is a great way to spend your time.